don't like condoms, so I don't use condoms.
Exactly, and I want you to know this.
I'm allergic to...
I'm sorry.
You did call the police on us!
No, I didn't. You don't even have a case. If I would have called the police, you would have a case against you.
A grieving mother walked into court convinced her deceased son's child wasn't real. Miss James had requested a DNA test for Miss Bever not once, not twice, but 3 full times.
Accept him, they don't accept me. I'm just ready for him to have acceptance, love. I want it to be real, not fake. I want him to, you know what I'm saying, just feel like that's all family.
Every single request had been turned down flat without explanation. That repeated refusal had only hardened Miss James's belief that something was being hidden. Now Judge Lake was the only person left who could untangle this painful mess.
Everybody's family, not just my side, not just their side. I want it to be genuine, and I just know once I get these test results, it will be genuine.
Miss James didn't hold back when it was her turn to speak before the court. She described a relationship between Miss Bever and her late son Daryl that was anything but stable. Constant breakups, ongoing conflicts.
I've never been seen with anybody else. I've never been with anybody else.
You haven't been seen with anybody else, but when you were living in the house,
anything.
And outside involvement with other people painted a troubled picture. Miss Bever pushed back immediately and called those claims completely false. 2 women, 2 completely different versions of the same relationship, and a child caught between them.
You were gone. You're gone 2 weeks, and I'm like, where's Kayla?
No, I was gone 2 weeks.
Where?
With my
someone
sister,
else?
at my sister's house.
Miss Bever stood firm and told the court she and Daryl had been together for 4.5 years before the baby arrived. Miss James refused to accept that timeline as anywhere close to accurate.
They had broken up. In 2 weeks, she was gone, and then she came back the next week, and
I was
her
already
and my
pregnant,
son...
Your Honor.
The hostility radiating from Miss James toward Miss Bever was impossible to miss in that room. She even described in detail exactly how she first learned about the pregnancy. Whatever history existed between these 2 women ran deep and bitter.
And the next week she came back, Your Honor, and now they're telling me that she was pregnant. And you want me to say, well, okay?
I was already pregnant when me and him split up for the 2 weeks.
Then came a detail that complicated everything Miss Bever had presented so far. Daryl had never signed the birth certificate, not once before he passed away.
You missed the birth certificate signing, but she's gonna come back to our room for you to sign it. He said, okay. By that time, we were so excited bringing in the new baby.
Miss Bever argued he had always believed the child was his without any doubt. Miss James fired back with a question that landed hard in that courtroom. If a man truly believes a child is his, why would he leave that birth certificate blank?
We didn't even remember about the birth certificate.
I asked him prior, almost 2 weeks to him dying.
That unsigned document told a story of its own whether anyone wanted to admit it. Miss James pressed further and revealed that Daryl had openly expressed doubts about the child's paternity before his death.
For the simple fact of now, I have tried to get DNA 3 times.
She never tried 3 times.
Yes, I have, John. You know why she don't know about 3 times?
She never tried to get no DNA
because she
test.
never shows up.
That disclosure landed in the courtroom like a match dropped onto dry paper. It suddenly reframed every argument Miss Bever had made up to that point. Daryl himself wasn't sure. Then who exactly was this little boy's father?
She never moved me nowhere. We never even had that as
I didn't have to meet you nowhere.
She never
I told
called,
you where the place was.
anything.
Miss James, take me through each time.
The 3 refused DNA tests became the centerpiece of Judge Lake's questioning next. Miss James was more than ready to walk through each of those incidents in full detail.
The first time that I recall telling Kayla about getting the DNA, my son had crossed over. He had died. In the process of him dying, Your Honor.
Miss Bever countered by questioning the logic of the accusation directed at her. She pointed out that a guilty person wouldn't voluntarily walk into a paternity courtroom. It was a fair point, but Judge Lake had seen plenty of bold liars take that same exact walk before.
2 weeks, I told her to go get his Social Security. We went down there. They told us we needed a DNA so that we can prove that he was his because he didn't sign the birth certificate.
Both women erupted into simultaneous arguing that overtook the courtroom entirely. The screaming match reflected just how raw and personal this dispute had become over time. A young child existed at the center of all this adult chaos and conflict.
When are you all coming home?
They were never supposed to go to Omaha. They were supposed to go to
you knew
St.
I wanted to go
Louis,
see my
Missouri.
brother.
They were never supposed to go to
So, Your
Omaha.
Honor?
She kept my son for like 2.5 weeks.
I surely did.
On that Sunday.
I surely did, Your Honor.
That reality seemed to get lost the louder the 2 women's voices grew. Judge Lake had to restore order before anything productive could move forward again.
By him. Either she was going to bring me my child Sunday or I was going to call.
You did call the police on us.
No, I didn't. You don't even have a case. If I would have called the police, you would have a case against you.
What came next genuinely shocked the courtroom into a brief, stunned silence. These two women who clearly despised each other with serious intensity were actually living under the same roof. Miss James and Miss Bever shared the same house while this feud continued burning between them.
She lives with me in my home. And when she came in the
She lives with you now? Whoa!
The daily tension inside that home must have been suffocating for everyone involved, and somehow that little boy was growing up watching all of it unfold around him every single day.
Temporarily.
Miss James, why did you take Miss Beversdorf in if you don't believe?
With the arguments exhausted and the accusations fully aired, only the DNA result mattered now. Was Daryl truly this child's biological father, or had doubt been justified all along?
The percentage of relatedness between Mrs. Jacqueline James and Dakari.
The answer was sealed inside an envelope that Judge Lake was finally ready to open. Every painful moment in that courtroom had been building toward this single point of truth. Whatever it revealed, that little boy deserved clarity, and so did everyone else in that room.
Is 99%. You are related.
Mr. Jalik discovered something on Miss Tillis's phone that he could not unsee. Explicit images she had sent to other men were right there staring back at him. From that moment forward, his mind was made up about that child completely.
The day my son was born, he has done nothing for my child.
Nothing?
Nothing at all.
Not a dollar?
Not a dollar.
He was not the father, and he had what he called medical evidence to back that belief up. Yet while all of this played out, the child had been left without any support from him at all.
Tell the court what that has been like for you.
I'm struggling. I have to do it all by myself. I'm not working right now.
So precious.
Miss Tillis told a different story about what that abandonment had actually felt like. Mr. Jalik had walked away from the child entirely without looking back once.
Mr. Jalik, did you turn your back on the baby?
No, Your Honor. Basically, we had a conversation, and like I told her, I refused to take up.
His position was clear and coldly simple. He refused to take on another man's child. No support, no presence, no acknowledgement of that little one's existence whatsoever. A baby was growing up while two adults argued about who was responsible for being there.
The next man slack for a child that's not mine. We wasn't even having relations when she got pregnant.
Here is where this case took a turn that nobody could have scripted more awkward. Mr. Jalik and Miss Tillis had never been in a traditional relationship at any point.
This started a committed relationship. You met?
I thought it was a committed
Did you date, or you just braided his hair and then decided I'm moving in?
Thank you.
She braided his hair, and somewhere along the way that arrangement expanded significantly beyond hair care. They had casually labeled it themselves as braiding with benefits and carried on that way for 2 full years. Now that same casual arrangement had produced a child and landed them both in front of Judge Lake.
Braiding with benefits.
So obviously,
it's not
you
like
all had a relationship. If she was over there all the time, Mr. Jalik.
We had a
Your Honor.
situationship.
Mr. Jalik's core argument rested on a foundation that raised immediate questions of its own. He insisted he had only been involved with Miss Tillis exclusively on his end of things.
Why am I looking at your phone and you got nude pictures going to your ex?
Miss
That's why I feel-
Tillis, were you sending naked pictures to your ex while you were living in his house?
So when he discovered she had been sending images to other men, everything clicked for him. His anger wasn't just about betrayal, it was about paternity doubt crystallizing into certainty. But the courtroom wasn't ready to take his word alone as sufficient proof of anything.
And saying he was your boyfriend? She was also having sex with someone else during the window of time that Jadance was conceived.
Miss Tillis admitted something during her testimony that shifted the room's energy noticeably. She acknowledged that another man had been in the picture during that same period of time.
During the window of time when Jadance was conceived, were you all intimate during that time?
Yes, this is
No.
the time where we were working together.
However, she was quick to add that protection had been used in that separate encounter. That clarification didn't exactly land the way she seemed to hope it would in there. Doubt about the child's paternity was now sitting firmly on both sides of that courtroom.
We
No.
were on and off.
So you and your ex rekindled your relationship or friendship, whatever it was?
Mr. Jalik then presented what he described as additional evidence supporting his position. Whatever that evidence was, it apparently stood out even by paternity court standards as unusual. The courtroom's reaction suggested it wasn't something people walked in with every single day.
My father, myself, and my 3 sons all have what the old folk call a wisdom hole in our right ear at the top. We're born with it.
His certainty about not being this child's father ran deep, and he leaned into every piece of it. But unusual evidence and absolute truth don't always point in the same direction.
It's a handsome child that she has, but he doesn't have the trait that me, my father, nor my sons have.
It's a pre-auricular sinus.
Then came the confession that reframed Miss Tillis's entire position before Judge Lake. She had previously insisted Mr. Jalek was the only possible father with zero room for doubt. Now, standing in that courtroom, she was acknowledging at least one additional possibility existed.
You did mess with the other guy at the end of October.
Yes.
So why, when I asked you, did you think he was a possibility, you said no?
Because we use protection.
That reversal was significant, and the courtroom felt every bit of its weight immediately. Once you change your story under oath, everything you said before gets pulled back into question.
It wasn't, I messed with him in October too. The beginning of February.
And the first conception date they gave you was October 25th.
With contradictions stacked on top of admissions and evidence clouding the full picture, only one thing could settle this cleanly. Judge Lake held the DNA results that would cut through every argument made in that room.
Mr. Jalek, you are the father. How does that make you feel, Miss Tillis?
One envelope carried the answer that a child deserved to have more than anyone else present. Like and subscribe, because that result lands harder than anything either of them said all day. Whatever it revealed, this little one's future depended entirely on the truth inside that envelope.
I'm happy.
Are you?
But I'm emotional at the same time because I went through a lot when I was pregnant.
We could tell.
I apologize.
Miss Hernandez walked into that courtroom with a 3-year-old daughter and a demand for accountability. The man she had married was sitting across from her, refusing to claim that child as his own. He hadn't come alone either. His girlfriend was right there beside him in that courtroom.
I do not believe this is your biological child.
Yes, Your Honor.
Look at her. Look at your 3-year-old daughter that you haven't been there in 3 years.
All right, so
His reason for doubt wasn't random or vague. He pointed directly at someone he knew personally. That someone was his own friend, and the accusation that followed was going to shake everything.
So pretty much this child is being at least emotionally abandoned. There's some need that she's calling out for and she's getting no response.
Mr. and Mrs. Hernandez hadn't always been sitting on opposite sides of a courtroom. There had been genuine love between them once, and a relationship that felt solid and real. But something cracked that foundation, and the collapse that followed was messy and strained.
I kicked him out after we had a big argument, and then 2 days later, I told him that I was pregnant with my daughter.
Mr. Hernandez, what is your account?
The unraveling didn't happen in one dramatic moment. It happened in layers over time. Each new layer that peeled back revealed something more uncomfortable than the last.
When we first got together, before she got pregnant, before I found out she was pregnant, I was gone for 2 weeks.
Mr. Hernandez described a specific moment when his doubts first took root and hardened. The news of the pregnancy reached him alongside another piece of information he hadn't expected. What he was told in that moment made him step back and seriously question what was happening.
I was told that her ex was in the bed.
Someone told you her ex was in your bed?
Yes.
While you're out fishing?
Yes.
From that point forward, the excitement that should have come with expecting a child simply never arrived for him. Something had been planted in his mind that he could not dig back out.
Who told you that?
A family member.
A family member of yours or hers?
Mine.
How would they know?
The friend at the center of this accusation was also Miss Hernandez's former partner from before. Mr. Hernandez believed this man had been involved with Miss Hernandez while he was away and absent. That overlap in timing was the foundation his entire doubt was built upon.
And she's even told me when we were separated from the house that she had her ex in the bed.
He wasn't just guessing either. He came to court ready to press that point hard. A 3-year-old girl's identity was now tied directly to whether that accusation held any weight.
Nope, that was
She admitted she had her ex in the bed?
Yes, Your Honor. On the phone, she told me that her ex was in the bed.
No.
Miss Hernandez pushed back on the friend angle with a detail she felt explained everything. She said that man only visited their home to spend time with her mother, nothing more. That explanation was meant to neutralize the suspicion, but it somehow deepened the strangeness instead.
This ex is coming in and out of your house frequently, but you say it's to visit your mother.
To visit my mother, yes. Because my mother is like his mother.
A man regularly visiting your wife's mother throughout your entire marriage is its own kind of uncomfortable. The courtroom wasn't quite sure what to do with that information as it settled in.
So, and my ex is young.
You like him young, huh?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Hernandez had actually welcomed the pregnancy with genuine joy when he first found out. His attitude shifted shifted dramatically, though, and the timing of that shift pointed to something specific. It wasn't random doubt that changed him, it was a conversation that landed like a grenade.
What happened at the birth?
2 family members came to the hospital and told me that's not my kid.
Two family members of who? Her family members, yours?
His mother-in-law had told him directly that the child his wife carried was not his biological daughter. That statement from inside his own household hit differently than any outside accusation ever could have.
Hers.
Hers?
Who?
Your mother.
Your mom? Oh, wait.
Because my mama doesn't like you.
Miss Hernandez flatly denied that her mother had ever said anything remotely close to that. But Mr. Hernandez had one more piece that kept pulling him back toward disbelief.
He wanted me to name her his last name. I didn't want to. Just in case something like this happened, he denied her.
When the baby was born, Miss Hernandez chose not to give the child his last name. That decision alone spoke volumes regardless of what either of them said out loud in that room. Actions in moments like that tend to tell the truth that words work hard to cover up.
There you go.
So, Mr. Hernandez, you believe she kept your name off that birth certificate
With every accusation fired and every denial returned, the courtroom had reached its limit on words. A 3-year-old girl deserved a definitive answer that no argument could override or erase.
Mr. Hernandez, you are the father.
Told you.
Judge. Lake held that answer in her hands and the entire room went still waiting. Like and subscribe because what those results revealed stunned even the most prepared people in that courtroom. One truth was about to close every open question this family had been carrying for 3 long years.
Do you feel a level of remorse and regret because you've pretty much missed 3 years of her life?
This case starts with grief and ends with a revelation that will stop you cold. Miss Jaminski had built 5 years of her life alongside a man she deeply loved. Then he was gone, and the family he left behind turned their pain directly toward her.
You say you had a loving 5-year relationship with the defendant's son, Georgie, who unfortunately died in a motorcycle accident.
His parents weren't grieving quietly, they were challenging everything she represented. And at the center of it all sat a child whose identity nobody could yet confirm.
You claim the defendants initially accepted your son, Xavier, but now need proof that they are Xavier's grandparents. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Miss Brown walked into that courtroom with energy that made her position crystal clear. She was not there to extend warmth or offer Miss Jaminski any grace whatsoever. She presented herself as calm at first.
Why didn't I know about you?
I don't understand why you didn't know about me either.
Okay, that's not an answer.
5-year relationship.
Why don't I know about you?
That surface cracked almost immediately. One of her first burning questions was why she had never once met this woman her son supposedly loved. A 5-year relationship and the mother never crossed paths with her. That alone raised serious flag.
I've never seen you in my house.
Did you ever ask Georgie why you haven't introduced me to your parents?
No, because
the picture of this relationship kept shifting the more details emerged in that room. Multiple partners had apparently been involved on at least one side of this situation. Miss Brown escalated things further by claiming she already knew who her son's actual girlfriend was.
Basically, we found out when he actually sent me a picture or a text message when I was talking to him one time.
And according to her, it was not Miss Jaminski standing in that courtroom. That claim landed like a stone thrown into already deeply troubled water.
And he sent me a picture and he said, Dad, what do you think? This could be my kid. And I told him at that time that, I really couldn't tell from the picture.
Miss Brown pressed forward and added another layer that darkened the whole situation further. Before her son passed away, one of his close friends had reportedly warned him directly.
Friend of Georgie's, very close friend, told him, listen, you need to find out if this baby is Georgie. So it's other people in the neighborhood must be saying something.
That warning suggested the child Miss Jaminski was carrying might not belong to him at all. Someone in his inner circle had planted that seed of doubt before he ever got answered. Now that doubt had outlived him and landed in Judge Lake's courtroom to be resolved.
Because he came to me after 2 years.
Okay.
Okay. He brought this to my attention. It went over my head.
Miss Jaminski stood there carrying a grief that the courtroom could almost physically feel. She had lost her partner and was now fighting his own family for acknowledgement of their child. A DNA test had been the plan before everything was derailed by his sudden death.
5-year relationship, you only saw him a couple times?
no, with the baby.
Why did he only see the baby a couple times when he was almost...
Watching Miss Brown deny any connection to her grandchild was visibly breaking Miss Jaminski apart. She needed answers not just for herself, but for the little boy growing up without his father.
He wasn't positive if it was if it was his or not. So he didn't want to get too close, you know? He didn't.
Then came the moment that completely reoriented the direction of this entire case. Ms. Chiminski admitted she herself had not been entirely certain the child belonged to Miss Brown's son. She had been in the process of seeking that truth herself right before he passed away.
Did you ever tell the other guy?
He had passed away when I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh.
He had got murdered. So a family member of mine had contacted his...
That confession didn't just surprise the courtroom, it fundamentally changed every argument on the table. A woman fighting for recognition had just revealed she shared some of the same doubts as her opponent.
family. They did not respond until Xavier turned 2.
The next detail pushed this case into territory nobody had fully anticipated walking in. A second potential father existed, and he was also no longer alive. 2 deceased men, 1 child, and a courtroom full of unanswered questions that kept multiplying.
When you talk to Xavier about his father, he's 2 now. Do you talk to him about his father? Who do you tell him his father is?
Whenever Miss Chiminski spoke to her young son about his father, she pointed to Miss Brown's son. That choice kept reopening wounds for Miss Brown every single time it came up.
I tell him Georgie.
See, that's the problem.
What do you
that's
tell
the problem.
That he watches his videos, and I say, you know, that's daddy.
Miss Brown eventually revealed what was truly driving her frustration beyond the paternity question. She wasn't consumed by hatred toward Miss Chiminski, she was consumed by hurt and disappointment.
If I wasn't here today, that baby could be a teenager and not know who his dad is if I didn't step in.
Her son's name had never been brought forward as a possible father during the entire grieving period. Miss Chiminski explained she had stayed silent out of respect for a family deep in mourning. 2 people in pain, and neither one had found a way to reach the other through it.
You know, this is something she should have done a long time ago. When it first happened, she should have said we weren't unsure.
Then the strangest detail of this entire case stepped quietly into the conversation. Miss Chiminski described a video she had captured of her young son playing at home. In that footage, she believed she could see the presence of her late lover appearing beside the child.
It looks like a spirit. It said it's like a cloud.
Okay, talk me through this video.
We're sitting in the car right now, and my friend is videotaping him.
Whether one believes that or not, it revealed just how raw and unresolved her grief remained. This wasn't just a paternity case, it was a story of loss that had never been allowed to heal.
And talking to him, and as you can see on the right, there is like this cloudy thing that comes out of nowhere in my...
With 2 deceased potential fathers and a family fractured by doubt and sorrow, only science could speak now. No amount of testimony or emotion could replace what that DNA result was about to confirm. Like and subscribe, because this verdict hits differently when lives lost are part of the equation.
The percentage of relatedness between Ms. Brown and Mr. Long and Xavier Chmielewski is 0%.
A little boy deserved a truth that the living had struggled to give him on their own. Judge Lake opened that envelope, and what it contained was the only thing in that room that truly mattered.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Georgie.
Miss Herman came into that courtroom locked, loaded, and absolutely ready for war. She had one mission: prove that Mr. Houston was the biological father of her son. Mr. Houston, however, had zero intention of stepping into that role without a fight.
Miss Herman, you are here to prove that Mr. Houston is the biological father of your 2-year-old son, Corey.
What neither of them knew was how many secrets were about to surface in that room. This session was about to go places nobody in that courtroom had fully prepared for.
You contend the defendant duped you and was living a double life. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Herman had done her homework before ever setting foot inside Judge Lake's court. Through her own digging, she had uncovered something Mr. Houston had carefully kept hidden from her. He was married, and not just married, but actively living that life while pursuing her.
During the time I was pregnant, I had told Mr. Houston that I was pregnant. He said that he would be there for me and my child. After 2 doctor's appointments, he stopped showing up.
He had constructed an entirely false version of himself to keep her close and uninformed. Everything she thought she knew about this man had been built on a deliberate lie.
So I got a little suspicious. So I got my investigation glasses on, and I found out via Facebook that he has a wife and children.
The revelations didn't stop at a secret wife. They kept multiplying at a staggering pace. Mr. Houston already had 5 children with the woman he was married to at home. 5 kids, a wife, and he was still out making promises he never intended to keep.
So your marriage and your kids and your wife were all extra things?
No, it wasn't extra at all. It was just something that
The courtroom absorbed that number with visible disbelief written across every face. Somebody needed to explain to Mr. Houston that deception at this scale has serious consequences.
You know, I didn't communicate with her.
Judge Lake wanted to understand exactly how this situation had started from the very beginning. Miss Herman walked the courtroom through the story of how she first encountered Mr. Houston.
At the young age that I am, I'm thinking like, you know, I'm young and naive. I'm thinking like, he's got it going on.
When did you two become intimate? That same night?
That same night.
After the club?
Followed was a timeline that revealed just how calculated his approach toward her had been. He had presented himself as available and she had believed him completely and without reservation. By the time the truth emerged, a child was already on the way.
He took me home to his house and I went, and this is how I did.
Wait a minute, he took you home to his house. Where was his wife and his kid?
Mr. Houston's attempt to defend himself from that podium was not a strong performance. He tried to reframe the timeline and suggested his involvement with Miss Herman predated his family life.
Introduce yourself.
I introduced myself. It was more of a, how you doing? What you doing in here? Where you from? You know? And it was cool, but
the story he was telling had visible holes that the courtroom could see straight through. Every explanation he offered seemed to collapse under the weight of the next inconvenient fact. This was not a man caught in a misunderstanding. This was a man running out of cover.
The same energy I was transferring, she was giving back. So it was like she made me feel like she was used to doing this all the time. But
the physical relationship between them had lasted only a single month before everything changed. Within that brief window, Miss Herman discovered she was carrying his child. She reached out to him immediately, hoping they could face the situation together and honestly.
And he didn't say anything on the other line of that phone. He said, "Are you for real?" I said, "Yes, I'm for real."
She received instead was distance, deflection, and a man retreating behind more carefully constructed lies. A 1-month involvement had created a lifetime of consequences for everyone connected to it.
Then he promised that he would be there throughout the whole pregnancy, not just 2 doctors.
Mr. Houston's casualness about the entire situation was striking to everyone watching. He showed no visible remorse for the deception he had put Miss Herman through. He didn't appear troubled by the pain his choices had caused the woman standing across from him.
To Houston, did your wife have any idea you were leaving the house at 2 in the morning and sleeping with another woman?
His demeanor suggested a man more focused on managing the damage than actually owning any of it. Judge Lake had clearly seen enough and was not going to let that attitude go unchallenged.
See, the thing is this, we were already on the verge of going through a divorce. Things wasn't.
Then Judge Lake made a move that caught Mr. Houston completely off guard in real time. She had arranged for his wife to join the session remotely through a video call. Suddenly, the carefully managed walls Mr. Houston had built between his 2 worlds collapsed entirely.
I discovered that, you know, they were doing whatever was a message came in his phone. When I have the baby, I want to move in with you.
His wife was now on screen, present in the same hearing as the woman he had misled. The silence that followed that moment was louder than anything either party had said all day.
So I'm looking like, who the hell is this and what is she talking about?
What the wife confirmed in that video call rocked the entire courtroom to its foundation. Mr. Houston had gotten both women pregnant during the exact same period of time.
Business of making babies, you know. I have every reason to extend my bloodline. Let me let you know, when I was 10 years old, I lost my superhero.
2 pregnancies, 1 man, 0 honesty. The math was as brutal as the reality it described. Like and subscribe, because what Judge Lake says next is something you cannot afford to miss. This story had layers that kept revealing themselves, and the deepest one was still coming.
My father, and once I seen my baby, it was really like a replacement.
With the pregnancy overlap now confirmed, the courtroom shifted to one final unresolved point. The 2 sides told completely contradicting stories about whether protection had been used during their time together. One account said yes, the other said absolutely not, and only one could be telling the truth.
I don't like condoms, so I don't use condoms.
Exactly, and I want you to know this.
I'm allergic to latex, so I can use non-latex condoms.
That contradiction mattered because it shaped the entire framework of accountability in this case. 2 people certain of their own version, and 1 DNA envelope holding the version that actually counted.
Why do people keep saying they're allergic to latex but not allergic to sex?
This woman tried to trap me.
I mean, it's like sex at all.
All the shouting, all the denials, and all the carefully rehearsed half-truths had run their course entirely. Judge Lake held the result that would silence every argument still bouncing around that room. The little boy's identity was wrapped inside that envelope alongside his mother's long-fought truth. Mr. Houston had spent months running from a reality that science was about to hand directly to him. Whatever those results revealed, there was absolutely nowhere left for anyone in that room to hide.
Mr. Houston, you are not the father.
Yes!